The Square Ball Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the show. It's brought to you in association with Levi Solicitors. They will offer you a 10% discount on your legal fees across their range of legal services for you and for your business. Michael, it gets even better than that, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. 15% off on the big three if you
Bloody
want.
hell.
If you want,
I haven't heard about this.
If you want Will's Probate and Conveyancing, get yourself to the Phil Hay Monday Club.
Phil Hay Monday Club, details of how to get that discount over there on that show. Part two of this show is the preview section. We got Man City at the weekend, and a game. Isn't it weird how football just has this this strange characteristic of you roll the dice, you do something different, even if that dice does come up with Sam Allardyce on the face, and it frames this game differently to how we felt probably going into it had we just rolled forward with Javi Gracia.
Because now we're going to win.
Is that fact?
No.
Got one in us?
Do we have one in us? We've always got one in us, but probably not.
Probably not this one.
No.
As form goes, Man City are doing all right at the moment, aren't they?
The only way we've got one in us in this is the unknowable chaos factor served up by the universe very occasionally. But most of the time things are orderly and come out as you expect.
It feels like full League Two against Premier League FA Cup stuff, does this, which the odds reflect, in fairness. So, yeah, I mean, Man City, I've realised I've not updated the sheet since last night. They've now won 14 of their last 15 games.
Yeah.
So
they're due to lose one.
They haven't it's not that they've not been beaten in that. They've won those. Just win every single week, apart from when they didn't have to win and they drew in Munich.
The only thing, though, the one last night was against an understrength West Ham, who by being organised did get to half-time 0-0. So you do cling to those little bits. And then how did it end up? Well, I can't remember what the first goal for City was like.
Was that the back post header? Okay.
Yes,
it was. So it was a set piece, wasn't it?
So what it took was the West Ham defender, whose name escapes me, just stepped backwards momentarily quicker than the rest of his teammates who were holding the line. And as a result, it gave Ake half a yard just to go in and nod that one straight into the goal.
And then the second one was they passed it to Haaland.
Yeah.
So that was fine.
Well, he did a full 90 last night. So he's either maybe going to get a rest on Saturday with Real Madrid to come on Tuesday, or they just let him get a hat-trick in half an hour and then take him off.
Yeah, they have that option, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean, the game last night, I didn't watch it. I've only seen the goals from it, but on paper, it looked a bit like when we played them at Ellen Road, because actually you came away from that thinking, oh, we've done all right there. We've lost 3-1.
Yeah, exactly.
And they didn't score like super early in it, did they? We held them for a bit, but then once they scored, you just felt like they were always going to win it because they just always had so much more to give. Like when I watched them against Arsenal the other week, they looked like a team that were trying to prove a point and were going out to demoralise the opposition and be as good as they could possibly be on the day. Didn't feel like that at Ellen Road. It felt like they turned up and were like, look, just wait.
It's a good job our manager hasn't been trying any mind games to wind them up before this one. That could go either way. But there is that is kind of the hope is if Haaland's maybe not, if he could be rested for the Champions League and De Bruyne probably, because he didn't play against West Ham, it might be that they don't use him against us as well. So they've only got loads of other really good players. I think that's the problem that we face against Manchester City this season, unlike other seasons, is that they've somehow got it right so that when a player isn't playing,
there's another really good one.
Yeah, which they've always had, but never in quite such a seamless way. Like Phil Foden hasn't been used as much because they've put everything into Haaland this year. So he's been a bit like Grealish was last year, where he's been a bit more on the fringes. But then he comes on as a late sub against West Ham last night and scores the third.
Well, and not his goal.
He's absolutely looks ecstatic about just being there. So I watched. I wasn't really watching it. I saw the very end when Calvin Phillips came on in the 89th minute, and he even seemed to be joking.
How did he do?
He seemed to be joking with the fourth official that I don't think I'm going to get a touch here. And he did. I don't know if he did. He was only on for like 2 minutes, and then the final whistle blew. But doesn't matter. Happy. Like everybody is really comfortable in their role, and with the amount of time that they're getting on the pitch and the job that they're asked to do, whether it's as a substitute or as a starter. Even Haaland, like how you've been waiting the number of times when Guardiola has pulled him up, where he scored 2, half an hour to go, and he's going to get a hat-trick and Guardiola subs him off. And if that was Cristiano Ronaldo, he would get in his car, he'd go hot, there'd be hell to pay. Whereas somehow Haaland is sitting down and going like, fine, you're the boss, this is great.
Funny, just on Calvin, sorry, I was going to say it's funny how he's probably going to end up with a Premier League winners medal, FA Cup winners medal, and possibly a Champions League winners medal, and he's played about 10 minutes. It's funny, isn't it? Just what a mad thing it is that they've created. But we know they've done it. I mean,
he'll probably get more game time next year. It's not unusual for first-year signings to be a bit.
It takes a while, doesn't it? It was obviously, as we saw with Bielsa at Leeds, like it takes a while for people to get used to the system, doesn't it?
Grealish is the great example because he looked awful last year compared to what they were expecting, and then now like absolutely integral to everything that they're doing. And saying himself is like, yeah, I couldn't really get the hang of it last year, but this year, perfect. So Phillips sort of shoulder out, go again next year, and with the medals in the cabinet.
Well, with
already
with reference to last year, then team from last year when we got spanked 7-0, when things got a little bit, should we say, difficult. Meslier was in goal. Then you got a back four of Shackleton, Ayling, Llorente and Firpo. Dallas and Forshaw in front of them. Or was it potentially even Shackleton? Was Shackleton in midfield and Dallas at right back? I'm not sure. Then with Rafinha, Robertson, Harrison in front of them and Dan James up front. So have we got a better team now than that?
It's just different, isn't it? I mean, we've not got anyone as good as Rafinha anymore. And I'd love Dallas to be fit to play midfield, even though he's not a midfielder.
I'd take Shackleton at this point.
Yeah, probably.
At least he's fast.
So we've got Meslier, Ayling, possibly Forshaw and Harrison consistent with that team last year.
Yeah, it feels very championshipy, that, doesn't it?
It does, Michael. You're right.
Yeah. I mean, I can't see us getting anything from this. I don't know
how
what...
are we going to set up? This is a question, isn't it? Does he maybe... I don't know, because of how defensive he is, Allardyce, as we were touching on in part one, does he maybe use McKennie playing off Bamford to an extent? Maybe 4-5-1, where McKennie can have a more advanced role?
Forshaw, Rocker and McKennie in.
Yeah.
Maybe. That's what I'm thinking he might do. He kind of hinted Bamford is going to be his starter, didn't he?
He's the linchpin up front, isn't he, in terms of holding it up?
So he's going to be Kevin Davis in this setup, I suppose, which leaves Weston McKennie to be JJ Okocha.
Could be Brendan Aronson. That's supposed to be his game, isn't it? Scrapping for second balls. The problem is he's just not very strong. But maybe a week of being shouted at might get him to lock on to what he needs to do.
A different kind of motivation. I don't know what he'll do in this. I think he'll play Nonto, just cause.
Well, if you as we were talking about when we did the appointment video, me and Rob, he does like to play inverted wingers. So I think it's not going to be a million billion miles away from what we've seen under Gracia, maybe just with more midfield reinforcements. Instead of the second striker in a 4-4-2, it might end up being a sort of a hybrid like 4-5-1 or whatever. And that's the extent of my tactical knowledge. So he'll play Nonto on the left, Harrison on the right, who is also very midfieldy orientated, isn't he, is Harrison? And then, just somebody to run in off Bamford. Or does he use, maybe, I don't know, Nonto in that role? It's hard to know, isn't it? Do you go for a more solid midfield structure? Who knows?
I mean, he did say it starts from the back, so it will be, I think some of the changes might be where our back four is on the pitch, whether they're staying deep and we're just banging it long to Bamford instead of, because I think one of the problems we've always seen is like Ayling and or Christensen turning around and trying to chase somebody back towards their own goal if they're already in the 18-yard box, not a problem. And that's the thing where City will kill you if they can pass through you. So that'll probably be...
Let them pass in front of us, maybe.
Yeah, so try to keep them in front of us. So 2 banks of 4 or a bank of 4, a bank of 5, and then Bamford just up front on his own.
See if he can make it stick.
And then don't worry too much about the knockdowns. But if you've got Nonto with his pace, maybe Brendan Aronson's pretty quick, I suppose. Anybody who was fast enough to get up there within a reasonable time frame of the ball leaving Liam Cooper's left peg. If they can maybe get near Bamford by the time it arrives.
If he's not injured, by the way.
We might have a time. Who?
Liam Cooper. We don't know for sure yet, do we?
I didn't know there was anything wrong with him.
Yeah.
He went off injured, didn't he? In the
of course he did,
game.
didn't he? Well,
I mean, he's not been fit for about 2 years, has he?
Verber is in the inside training video quite prominently, which featured a lot of running. Well, it featured so the first inside training video with Sam Allardyce it features him seeking out the camera at the side of the path as they walk in, going, "Oh, you've come to look at me," and then the players doing laps, and then the players doing press ups with Allardyce has got his hand on Rodrigo's shoulder at one point as he's doing press ups, make sure he's doing them right, and then passing to each other and then laps. So I don't know if that's I mean, it's a 2-minute video. I don't know if that's an accurate representation of the full, however long the session was. But yeah, laps and press ups.
I don't think any of us expect to come away with anything from this one whatsoever, do we? However, we can turn our attention to the other games and see if maybe we can come out of this weekend no worse off. Well, I mean, by definition, we can't, in the sense that Forest play Southampton on Monday night. We got West Ham against Man United on Sunday evening, so everything's been messed up for the coronation, hasn't it? This weekend.
Yeah, we're on telly on Saturday afternoon.
Yes, we are. We're breaking the 3 p.m. blackout. We're the first ones to do so,
apparently.
Yeah. So you've got West Ham Man United Sunday night at 7. Then we roll forward into Monday, which is another bank holiday, which is very confusing. Fulham versus Leicester. You'd expect Fulham to
go on, Dan James,
to do that.
Go on, Dan James.
If it's going to go,
don't trust Fulham.
If it's going to go to form, Brighton versus Everton, that should be Brighton's every day of the week. But you know, we're relying on stuff going to form. And then this is the interesting one, isn't it? Forest versus Southampton. We want Southampton to win that, don't we?
Yeah,
I think so, because they won't win again.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the odds of people staying up now, going down, sorry, Southampton, I think, in decimal odds 1.03, which means if you put £1 on, you'll win £1.03 back.
Right.
So they are done, according to bookmakers. So can I just have a complaint about the spread of these fixtures, by the way? Because if you're a Leeds fan trying to enjoy your bank holiday, you basically don't get to relax for a minute, do you?
No.
Particularly Monday, they've deliberately ruined that. You've got to just always be checking scores.
Yeah.
Dean Smith's been having this because all Leicester's games for the rest of the season until the last one are Mondays.
Right.
Yeah,
so
but I'm
annoyed.
feeling sorry for myself. Dean Smith can fuck off.
Well, so is Dean Smith.
Yeah, but he doesn't deserve to because he's a prick.
He can cry on John Terry's shoulder. Yeah, it is quite difficult.
What, in terms of a Forest Southampton, if that comes out as a draw, it's not the worst thing in the world, is it?
Does that leave us needing points, though?
Yeah, but
our survival hopes depend on not needing to get any points.
Yeah, but as much as Moscow's saying we could go through the rest of the season and not win any points and still stay up, I think we're probably going to need to get some points from somewhere.
we are,
yeah. But then that's the thing. I mean, we've not really addressed where Allardyce is going to take us. Manchester City, nah. But then after that, Newcastle, West Ham, both former clubs. I think, and bearing in mind his generally kind of grudgeful demeanour, the idea of putting one over on two former clubs. If motivation, the main thing he's got, then I want to go out and show Eddie how, he's supposed to be a wine buff, isn't he? See if he likes a pint of the stuff being thrown in his face. And then Spurs on the final day, we've been talking for a while, and Tottenham, every time they take to the pitch, you look at them and just go, they don't want to be there, do they? So will they want... I mean, you're imagining...
They look as mentally feeble as we do.
Yeah, but you're imagining Sam Allardyce's Bolton, and they would absolutely steamroller this Spurs team on a final day when, Bolton need to win to stay up. Spurs don't care anymore, then all the players want to leave.
I reckon he might go for a cheek pinch on Ryan Mason rather than a handshake. Ruffle his hair.
You can imagine the ball's being banged up at Kevin Davies, and then JJ Okocha is coming in to finish it off, and it's all just like... Absolutely. Whether that can be achieved with, Pascal Strauch and Pat Bamford is a different thing. But you saw how, I was surprised, and I wonder if it's maybe just because he'd only just come in, it was his first day, that Allardyce was all, we need an informed Pat Bamford. It's like, look at the way Rodrigo was absolutely going hell for leather against Leicester. that's who you would think. If I was Sam Allardyce, I'd be like putting him up front for the Kevin Davies job. But we should be able to beat Spurs because purely from that, they don't want it.
Yeah, and if it comes down to a crapshoot on that final day with Ellen Road behind you, which it will be, Bristol Rovers-y type vibes about that. I don't know.
And one thing I will say for the changes this week,
doable.
Orta as much as the managerial change, it does feel like, at least until Man City beat us, it's reframed the way we're seeing those games at Ellen Road now. Because I was thinking it's going to be a horrible atmosphere. It's going to turn in a second if we go behind. Whereas I think now, whether or not it makes any difference to the end of the season, getting rid of Orta is debatable because what more is he actually going to do? Although the rumour is that he didn't want to get rid of Gracia, and that's partly why he's been seen out the door as well. But I don't know. It feels like it reframes that. Whether or not it should is a different matter because.
But maybe it needed to.
But if you're trying to look for an atmosphere that can get you a result, it's probably better that it is positive rather than everyone fucking hating each other.
And it probably, for longer term, I mean, I am quite snobbish about Sam Allardyce. It's not the kind of, I don't want him to be our manager, and I think the general kind of laughingstock nature of the appointment, which you will see on every other podcast and every other football fan is kind of pointing and laughing at getting the idea of getting Big Sam in. But where we are as a football club, our best chances for the future are staying in the Premier League, so we're still getting that money, so we still have that vague hope that we might somehow follow what Brighton have been able to do. The takeover happening simply so that the people who have got us into this state go away, and for that to happen, staying in the Premier League is vital. And if Sam Allardyce shouting at them for a month is the best chance of keeping us up, and actually, as we're saying then, his grudges against Newcastle and West Ham, the destructive style of play, what we can potentially do to Spurs on the last day, and just, as you're saying, Victor Orta already going, kind of giving people that slightly more relaxed feeling.
Taking the heat out of it a little bit, yeah.
It is just, go on then, Sam, sort it out, and then like 3 million quid fine, not my money.
There you go then. Part 1 of the show was the news section. That was the Man City preview. Part 3 on the way for you, heroes and villains as well. Look out for it in your feed.
The Square Ball Podcast.